All right, we will go ahead and get started now. Again, my name is Tom Lyons. I'll be taking you through this webinar today. I'm a senior support engineer and subject matter expert over at Inflow Communications with over 6 years of unified communications experience across the Mitel, Genesys Cloud, and RingCentral platforms. Today's user training will cover how to make and manipulate calls in PureCloud and the difference between interactions and regular calls. So we'll be going over that. A little bit about Inflow Communications today. Before we get started, Inflow does have a sole focus on unified communications and contact center solutions. Voice is what we do. As a result, because we don't branch into other devices like networking equipment or anything like that. Anytime you call in or send us an email about your voice application, you're going to be in contact with somebody who does know your system, will be able to help you reliably and show you what you can do to enhance your experience with your voice system. We are a platinum partner with Mitel, as well as we are partnered with RingCentral, and we are a Genesys Gold partner. We have offices and employees across the United States, currently servicing over 200,000 endpoints and 800 customers nationwide, and in a lot of cases worldwide. And we are maniacal about the customer experience. We want to make sure that you get all the information you need for your voice application and then some, just to make sure that everything is going to run for you the way that you want and enhance everything that you would need for your business. Got a couple upcoming webinars I wanted to touch on as well, if these are of any interest to you. On the 23rd, we will be running a webinar on expanding your customer engagement strategy. And then on the 25th, if you are also running in a Mitel environment, we are running a webinar on how to leverage SIP trunks in the Mitel environment. So what to expect if you're moving to SIP, the kind of devices you may need in order to work with your carrier, and the benefits of doing so. So that would be a good one to look at as well. Here's a quick snippet of the customers that we support. And as always, there is a question box in your GoToWebinar application that you can use. Be able to show you we'll be able to show me if you have anything that comes up during the webinar. If you do have questions, feel free to punch those in as we go along. I will be answering these at the end, and we'll be able to get you any information that I can't answer directly right away via email shortly after the webinar as well. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and swap over to my PureCloud login. And you will see here, I am on the main screen. Let me go to where we would normally see if you were just logging in here. There we go. You will normally see a login just like this when you first log into your Genesys Cloud application. This is going to be what you'll see the very first time you log in, every time you actually log into the platform. And from here, we can do a few things to set up calls, start calls, as well as start interactions, which is what we are going to be focusing on today. So on the left side, there are a series of icons. What we're going to be looking at today is the calls function. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this phone right here, and it's going to pop up a little calls pane. On the left side, I can create a new call here, and you can see here they even bring attention to the little plus sign here with the start a new call. And the little plus sign here, which will allow you to actually start one. And then you have a few different things you can look at as well for the actual calls. So what I'm going to do first to show you what you can do with calls is I'm going to start one here. And I'm going to go ahead and press this plus button here. It's going to bring me to the dial pad, which you will see. So I'll click the plus, I'll click a new phone call, and it opens up the dial pad. So you can do the same thing by just clicking on the dial pad here. At this point, I could punch in a number by pressing the actual buttons on the dial pad here. I could also just type in a name or a number here. So if I have a name of a contact that's already in my organization that I would like to call, or a contact that's saved and brought into Genesys Cloud, I can do that here, or I can just type in the number. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and punch in a number to start a call. And I'll hit enter. And you'll notice it doesn't immediately send the call. It's going to actually put it into this little arrow here that I can actually delete. At this point, once that's there, I can hit this green call button, and that's going to start the call on the left side. Oh, and I just realized I misdialed. So let me try that again. There we go. And once this call connects, there's a few options that we will have in order to manipulate the call. So there we go. I have placed it on mute as well, so we don't have any reverb. But to go through what we're looking at here, the interface for calls in this system is fairly simplistic. There are definitely a few things you can do. But what we're looking at here is on the left side, as well as the center portion here, this is going to be your current call in progress. So you can see I'm connected to a phone number from Newberg, Oregon. We've been talking for about 24 seconds. And we have a few manipulation options at the bottom of each one here. If you have multiple calls, you will have another call down here at the bottom, and you can swap between them by highlighting them. Your buttons are going to correspond to what you can do on the call here. Everything is going to be based on the application itself. So to go through these here, the illuminated microphone is your mute button. When it is illuminated orange, like you see here, that means that you are muted. And so that all that means is you can hear the other side, but they cannot hear you. If I uncheck this, now the other side can hear me. And you go ahead and put that back on. So that is nice and easy to do. You also have the ability to place the call on hold. When you do that, it's going to place the customer on hold where they will hear anything like hold music or branding that you have set up for them while they are on hold. This is just handled by hitting the little pause button here. So when I do that, you'll see that the call is now on hold. You don't get any indicator of how long the call has been on hold here. You just can see that the call itself is on hold. When I press this button again, it'll just bring me right back to the call. So you can do that to place somebody on hold while you need to go talk to somebody rather than leaving them on mute. Make it a little bit easier for your customers so they know what's going on. And it's very easy to see if they are on hold. You also do have capability here to use the dial pad. The dial pad will come in handy if you do need to do anything that's going to require any sort of auto tenant options. So a good example for this would be that you would use this if you were trying to call into maybe your internet service providers such as Comcast, where they have numbered options to go through and reach the branch that you need to talk to. The dial pad is what will facilitate that for you once a call has started. Once this is up, you can just press the buttons to correspond with where you need to go. And then the big things that you may use on these calls are really going to be in this drop-down arrow. So you'll see here when I press this arrow, there are a number of different things that pop up. We do have the ability to record. Depending on your organization and your settings, you may be able to set up your calls so that you can record on demand. Other organization setups will have automatic recording already turned on. So you may or may not see that particular option. The other ones, though, are going to be ones that you're going to be very used to coming from any other sort of voice application and are going to be very well used. And that's going to be the add participant as well as the transfer button. So I'm going to go ahead and click on add participant here. And when I do, you'll see it brings up a small dial pad that'll allow me to enter names and numbers here. To add a participant, you can set this up so that the calls can add another person externally or internally. And the way that this works is once you start putting stuff in here. So if I wanted to, actually that user does not exist in this system. So let's do this. If I wanted to add Tom user 1 to this call, I could enter in his name like I just did there. Hit enter so that the name is in that gray arrow as you see there, and then I could hit the call button. What will happen is that person will then get placed into the call, and if they pick up, they will be part of a three-way conference. Nice and easy. If I wanted to do this for an external number, I could. So if I wanted to just do 503-555-1212 and add them to the call, the system will allow you to do that also. So you can conference in an external party if you need to. Now, when you do this, the other person on the line is going to hear things. So just keep in mind that there's going to be a ringback, and then there's going to be somebody entering the call and to let them know that you are part of the conference. On the other side here, there's also the ability to transfer the call. So if I click the transfer here, you'll notice that it says to enter a name or a queue. Now you can enter a phone number here. So if I start typing 503-555-1212, it will allow you to do external numbers also. So don't be confused by the enter name or queue here. What is cool about this is you can do it to a specific queue. So let's say you are working in the sales queue for your organization, for example, and you get a call that's supposed to go to the support queue. If I start typing in a queue name here, you'll notice that in our case here, we have a queue named training support. So I could actually send this call to training support by typing in training support here and hitting enter. And then I also have the ability to do a couple of different ways to transfer. So down at the bottom here, and this applies to any sort of transfer that you're going to do, you have the ability to do a blind transfer or a console transfer. Now, the difference between the two, if you're not familiar, is that the blind transfer is going to just send the call to the destination that you have specified for the transfer and is not going to keep you on the line. So if you do a blind transfer at that point, once you've hit the button and the call leaves, you are done with the call. You're not a part of it anymore. With a console transfer, it's actually going to place the person on hold that you're talking to and allow you to place a call to the person you want to transfer to, so you can talk to them, make sure that you can transfer the call, and then it will allow you to either accept the transfer at that point, letting the call go through. At that point, you'll be done with the call. Or if you hit no, you can go back to the user that you were talking to so that you will be able to continue that conversation and let them know that the person they were trying to reach is not available. So you do have those options here. Finally, also on this drop-down arrow, if there's any issues with your call, such as call quality issues, you're hearing the other side cut in and out, or it sounds like they can't hear you, something like that, you can actually use this little flag here for a voice quality issue. And what this does is it just flags the call to make it easy to find for your system administrators, so that they can look through, find that conversation ID, and then they can work with us, who will also be working with the Genesys Cloud folks, to make sure if there's anything going on your calls that could be causing the quality issues, that we can find and fix that issue as quickly as possible. So this is a good way, if you're having any sort of call quality issues, to start flagging those calls and make it easy for people to find. And then finally, on the right side is your hang up button. It does exactly what you expect, hangs up the call, which is what I'm going to do now. So when I do that, you'll see I've left the call here. This will hang out for just a minute, and then this will go away, and it should bring me to my call history. And there it is. So you can see here, I'm in my call history now, which is this button here. We'll be going through these options here in a moment. And it shows that I was on that call for 7 minutes. The call is disconnected. If I needed to, I can call this person right back by hitting the phone button here. I can also click on the ellipses here and also flag this call for a voice quality issue at this point in time. So if I get off the call and realize I was having issues at that point and didn't actually check that feature, I can still do it here, which will make it much easier for your IT departments to figure out what's going on and work with us to help alleviate any potential call quality issues. While we're on the topic here, we're going to go through these buttons at the top. We are going to skip the dial pad because we did just go over that by pressing the plus button on the calls. But to go through the call history, your call history is going to show calls that were made, received, missed, which you can see here, there's a missed call here. It will show a few calls at a time. You can click on this more history button, and if there is more history, it will load them. And so you can see, this is in our sandbox environment, so you'll see there are a number of calls and transfers that are shown here. If I go ahead and then click into any of these down arrows, depending on what you're doing. So in this case, this is an outbound campaign call, so there's a little bit more going on with it. You can see some of the information, like the number that was called. For the majority of these, though, it's going to be something as simple as this was an inbound or outbound call. Here's the phone number. You can call them back. You can report a voice quality issue if you need to. So very, very simplistic there. You also have your inbox, and your inbox will actually handle a few different things, depending on what you're using your Genesys Cloud application for in your organization. So the default, and the one that you're going to see more often than not, is going to be your voicemails tab. And you'll see here there are quite a few voicemails in this account right now. You can see how long ago they were placed. So in this case, that Grand Prairie, Texas one, the second one down, you can see was 8 months ago. If I hover over it, it's actually going to tell me the exact timing. So I can see that this was actually handled on October 3rd, 2019 at 10:40 a.m. I can call this person back, and then with the ellipse, I can actually mark this as on red which will actually change how it looks. You'll see it actually highlights in orange to show you that you have a voicemail that has not been listened to. When I mark this back to red, which I can do if it is highlighted that way, you'll see it goes back to the regular text. I can download a copy of this. So this will download a WAV file copy of the voicemail. I can also delete it from this page. So once I'm done with the voicemail, I can just get rid of it. And then there's a little call notes button down here, which is that little pad with the pencil right here. And when you actually click into the center piece of a voicemail, what that is actually handled for is going to be this little edit button. So when I click on this edit button, I can type in something like notes for this call. You can change how this box looks. It only changes vertically, but you can open it up a little bit more. I'll go ahead and hit save, and now it says notes for this call. So this is a good way if you have a voicemail you need to come back to, you can just leave yourself a note and say, hey, this is what this is for, so you can easily find what you're looking for. You can look at all of your voicemails at one time, all of your read voicemails, which is going to be everything that we have here, or anything on read. So if I do on read, I actually don't have any on read voicemails at the moment, but just to show you here, I will make this one on read. Now you'll see that this voicemail is showing up there, so you can filter fairly quickly there. Nice and easy way to check your voicemails for your direct user. In this dropdown, if you're using any of these other options within Genesys Cloud, you will actually see any faxes that are sent in here as well. So any faxes that your DID has gotten, any recordings you've taken will show up in here also, depending on your permissions. And then if you're using the system for evaluations and coaching appointments, which would be your Q&A team or your IT team setting up times to work with you on your calls, you may see those here also. So that is what the inbox is used for. And then the other pieces here, we'll actually look at the send fax first and talk about that. And then there's a few things about the actual phone that you're using also that are very important. So I'm going to click on this little paper with the envelope here. That's for sending a fax. The system does allow you to do this directly from your station. So it is a nice, cool little tool if you do need to send a fax. You would simply enter the number here. You can choose to include a cover sheet or not, and add a cover page note when the fax goes through. And then you can simply attach the document that you want to fax from your computer. So it's super simple to use, and it will work to other normal fax machines, just like it would if you were using a fax machine to send through. So that is an option with Genesys Cloud as well that comes as a part of the normal calls pane. And then finally, let's look at the phone details and the settings, and then we're going to talk a little bit about interactions as well. So I'm going to click on phone details here. This one's really simplistic. It just tells you your device for calls. This one is something that you do need to make sure is assigned. When you first start using the Genesys Cloud system, you will have a phone, more than likely a WebRTC soft phone that will be set up for you so that you can use it with the system. In order to actually use the device, you have to make sure that your device is selected, which is handled by this drop down here. So this is how it will look normally, is you'll see something like no phone selected on your first login to the system. If you click on select phone, you should see a default phone because it should be assigned to your user. In this case, you'll see that we have one called Test Soft Phone. I will go ahead and use that default phone, and now I'm assigned to it, which means I'll be able to make and receive calls. If you don't do that piece, then you won't be able to make or receive calls, so make sure that that is set up. There is a little forward calls button as well, and if I turn that on, you'll see that I can actually punch in a number for these calls to reach me rather than through Genesys Cloud. So this would be something where you might have it set up to forward to your cell phone if you're going to be away from your desk for a little bit. There's also a little button here that says, use the voicemail service of this external number. What this does is this is going to allow your voicemail on your cell phone, or if you're using an answering machine from a landline or anything like that, it will allow that device to pick up the call. If that is turned off, then you're going to have to acknowledge that you're picking up the call once you answer it by pressing a digit. That's to stop that internal voicemail from your cell phone from picking up the call and leaving the call in the PeerCloud application if you so choose to do so. So you have that capability. And then finally, we have a settings tab as well. And in the settings tab, this is going to be mostly your computer audio that you're going to use for your phone itself. You'll see here under audio controls, we have a few different options. Currently, I'm just set to use the computer settings, which would be just my standard voice input and microphone input for the phone itself. In addition to that, you can actually change your different device volumes and also where they go. So I'm going to click on device volumes here. And you'll see here, we have a couple different settings that we can set up for this. So we have our call volume. That's going to be how loud the call is in the middle of the call. You have your ringer volume, so how loud you're going to hear the notification coming through that you're getting a call. And then there's also chat notification if you're using the collaboration tools built within PureCloud, and interaction notification volume, which is for any calls that come through any queues that you're a part of. So you can see all that here. You can adjust all those on the fly. You can also reset them. If I wanted to go ahead and create a new profile so that I have different device settings for this, I could just click on new profile here. I'll just call this one test. And you'll see here, I have options to change my microphone, my speakers, which is going to be for my actual phone call, and then my notification speakers. So where this comes in handy is you can do things like set up your microphone that you want to use. You can set up your speakers, which would potentially be your headset for your calls. And then maybe you want to set up, or I'm sorry, I want to set up headphones there. And then for your notifications, maybe you set that to speakers. So as a result, for my setup, this would be beneficial because I would be able to hear my notifications from anywhere in my household, because I am working remote currently, through my speakers. But then once I pick up the call with these settings, then all of the call audio is going to go to my headset. So this gives me everything I need without having to change settings on the fly, so that if I'm, for example, maybe downstairs getting lunch ready and I get a call going, I can run upstairs, answer that call, and without having to change my audio properties, it will go straight to my headphones. So that's the phone piece for the base phone. We are also going to briefly touch on interactions here. Interactions are basically the same thing. The difference is these are calls that are going to be either on behalf of a queue or coming in as part of a queue. So I'm going to click on this little person with the audio coming out by the head here, which is your interactions. When I do that, you'll notice it looks very similar. We have the ability to start a new call, or if you're using email interactions, you can actually send a new email here as well. And you'll notice here, there's a little blurb that says, go on queue to begin accepting new interactions. Now that is specifically for inbound interactions, and you can actually click this button to go on queue, or there's a little slider in the top right that says off queue, and if I hit that, I will go on queue as well. So you do have that capability. And it looks like there was a test queue call that was in there. I'm not going to touch that one, but we are going to go ahead and start a new interaction here. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new call. And you'll notice it asked me the queue that I want to make the call from. So what I'll do is I will use this Brad training one, and I will use the same number, punch that in, and I will start the call. And when this starts here, I'll go through the different options. Just wait. Oh, I did it again. I put in the area code different. So give me 1 second here. Now it'll work. Wait for that call to hit. There it is. And so now you'll see I'm on the phone. That is now muted. All right, and so we see that we have a call on here. We can see interaction details. If you are set up in your system so that you have any external database, like maybe Salesforce publishing information to your Genesys Cloud application, then you will be able to see that information here. In this case, the person that I'm talking to doesn't actually have anything attached to our Salesforce, so we can't see anything except the queue name and the customer number. But you can see that info here. You do have the ability to create a profile for the user within PureCloud, or within Genesys Cloud rather, if you so choose. And to go through the options on this particular call, you do have the dial pad. So if you are calling something that requires IVR options, you can change that here. You can mute and unmute just like before, hold just like before. You can do a blind or consult transfer from the interactions as well. One thing to note is you cannot do a add participant directly from here. So that is one thing that you cannot do directly from the interactions tab here. The other things that you have access to that are different is a start or end of secure pause. This isn't going to be something that the majority of you will likely see. However, if you do anything that handles payments in PureCloud, which can be done through agent scripting and just taking down that data, what this does is this stops recording for the time being, so that you're compliant with those standards and you're not recording customer financial information on the line. So this is a way to keep that compliant for payment data processing. Once you're done, then you can actually start the pause or stop the pause again, and recording will continue. And then you also have your hang up button here. Down below, you can see the profile for the user. If you have any canned responses built into your system, which would be essentially basic scripting that can be used for interactions, you can see those here. So you might have talking points in here that are built into your system. You can take notes for the call. This works just like the call notes on the voicemail tab. So I can enter notes here, and those will be entered when the call is completed. I can schedule a callback, which is super handy. So if I wanted to get back on the phone with this customer 3 hours from now, I can set up that callback. If I click on this, it'll pop up a date that I can select, a time I can select, the time zone, which you will want to select for your time zone to make sure that your timing is right, the phone number that you're going to be called back, and then the little box down there, route callback to me if possible. What this is going to do is, because this callback is going to be on behalf of the queue and not just on behalf of you, if that box is checked and you are not on a call, when the callback occurs, the callback will go directly to you, so you can handle the rest of the interaction. If that's not checked, or if you're not available, somebody else in the queue will be getting that callback as well, so it does still happen. And then finally, you have wrap-up codes that you can set up here, which will also happen when you hang up the call. So these just flag the calls for specific wrap options, so that you can actually run reporting against those calls. So this would be something where you might see like a support call or a non-support call wrap-up code or a transfer code, depending on what's in your organization. You just want to make sure that you have the appropriate response set up there. So what you'll see here is I'll go ahead and end the call. When I end the call, you'll notice that there is an after call work timer. Depending on your queue, this will differ and will give you, may or may not give you the ability to end early. That's going to be a timer that's going to stop any more interactions from hitting me until that timer is done. So if you're coming from Mitel, this is known as wrap time. Other systems like to refer to this as after call work. This is much the same thing. And this is where we would put in the wrap-up code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this default wrap-up code, enter that, and you'll see that's set at the bottom. It says wrap-up code is set, default wrap-up code. And at this point, I am done with the call, so I can go ahead and hit done. That call is now logged, and that actually ends my after call work as well, so I'm ready to receive the next interaction. And with that, that finishes our training for today on the Genesys Cloud system. So we went over the call basics on how to manipulate calls, as well as what to look for with interactions, how to change your device settings, and make sure that your phone is up and running. So with that, if you guys do have any questions, go ahead and punch those into the questions box in your GoToWebinar application. I'll be watching for those for just a moment here. All right, it looks like we don't have anything specific. So just to go over our current customer resources real quick to make sure that you guys can get to us if you do need anything. You can reach us via email at support@inflowcommunications.com. Those emails are answered in the order they are received. So this is a good way to reach out for any non-urgent information requests or issues that you need assistance with. You can also take a look at all of your tickets that you've created in our portal at support.inflowcommunications.com. You can see the status of all your tickets at the same time, and you can modify those, send updates, and just very easily manage those, much easier than you can through email. So that option is available. If that does interest you, you want to make sure that you send us an email or give us a call just to make sure we can set you up. There's some back-end information we need to get set up in order for that to work for you. And then you can also reach us on the phone at 855-946-3569 or 855-9-INFLOW. We do have a 3-ring answer policy, so you're not going to be hanging out for 10 or 15 minutes waiting for somebody to jump on the line. And when you do get somebody, they're going to be an engineer that's well-versed in the voice applications that you're using. And then, of course, if you want any more information on our support packages and what we offer, you can email us at sales@inflowcommunications.com, or you can call us at 844-446-3569. So again, on behalf of Inflow, my name is Tom. Thank you very much for joining us on our webinar today, and we do hope to see you in the future. Have a wonderful day.